Nothing is concealed that will not be revealed. What I say to you in the darkness, speak in the light from the housetops. In the name of the Father, the Son, and Holy Spirit. First, I want to wish all the fathers here a happy Father's Day. And we have a rather difficult homily this morning. It has many parts. I'm going to name it the Homily of Two Archbishops. Two archbishops. First, I was away this past week. We went to a convocation. I'd never been to a convocation before. Some dioceses have them on a regular basis. This is the first one for the Diocese of Peoria. On the occasion of the 150th anniversary of our diocese, our bishop wanted all the priests to come together for 5 days, and there we had talks and also some open time that we could have recreation together. For example, I played golf on Monday and Tuesday afternoon, but all the mornings we have talks, then in late afternoon and evening we have talks. So it's not all a fun time, okay? It's kind of like a conference and a vacation together called a convocation. So I don't know who came up with that word, but it was good for us to be there. And something new happened to me. I had an opportunity for the very first time to ride in a hands-free car. By show of hands, how many of you have been in a hands-free car? Oh, no one. I've always had one or two. So I'm the first for you. Okay. It was interesting. Very interesting experience. I imagine it was something like if you think back in the horse and buggy days and they see a car for the first time, you know. Can you imagine the shock? And it wasn't that dramatic for me, but it really was a cool experience, but yet you have some type of trepidation. The priest was showing how he pushes buttons and then he puts his hands up and the car just backs out and starts driving by itself. And he explained all the cameras involved and what would happen if this happened. And so it was an interesting experience. I can foresee that this is coming. Of course, this is obvious, not being a futuristic here, but it's coming. Everybody's going to have, actually, not going to have your own car. What was going to happen is you're going to have a private artificial intelligent avatar, and it'll know your doctor's appointment is at a certain time, and all you do is go to the door and there's a car waiting for you. It'll take you to your appointment, bring you back, go back inside, and the car will go off to a car park and recharge its battery. So none of us will have a car. It'll all be automated. Every car will have its own transponder, like the airlines do. So cars will be able to, of course, the young people won't know this reference to the Jetsons, okay? So pretty soon it's going to be zip, 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 okay? We're going to be moving so fast in between traffic, and it's all coordinated by the computers. So don't worry, nothing could go wrong, okay? But you do worry about things going wrong, and so there's a lot of trust involved in these hand-free cars. You're trusting that the computer is knowing what it's doing. But we already do that with the regular cars when we drive regularly. We trust that the other driver is not drunk or not on their iPhone or phone, not distracted, not coming into your lane. So you trust that that's happening. But as we're finding out, more and more drivers are being distracted by their electronics. So the young people are going to want this hands-free experience more than the older people do. So eventually it's coming. Eventually it's going to come. But it gets me to thinking about trust. Trust. Can we trust this technology? And thinking about the ancient Greeks like Aristotle, okay? they understood that a community needs trust. A community needs to know the truth, to have the truth spoken to them. If a community cannot trust one another, if everybody's lying to each other, well, then the community cannot exist, cannot thrive. So trust and truth are paramount to the well-being of a community. Now, Plato, be another contemporary of Aristotle. Actually, it was Aristotle's teacher, but Plato held that a community, every now and then, it's okay to lie to them. It's called the noble lie. Has anybody ever heard of that? The noble lie? The community, the government can say, okay, we're going to lie to you for your own good. Okay? Well, you had an experience of this past Friday when Tulsi Gabbard, the head of director of Department of Intelligence, released all the files, emails of Dr. Fauci. I saw one statistic, I can't believe it, 4.7 million pages, but she had a stack of emails next to her. And she was saying that Dr. Fauci lied to us. Lied to us. Will there be prosecution with this? I don't know. Why? Well, turns out he was also working with the intelligence community and the Department of War Defense. So he might have been lying to us for our own good, a noble lie. I don't think that's still a good reason, but he might be saying that to get him off. I lied to you for your own good. But we don't like that, do we? We want to know the truth. We want to know the truth. And truth is something that we depend on from our superiors. That gets me to the topic of the two archbishops. Now, one archbishop is connected to the community just south of Georgetown and Olivet, the Boys Academy, La Salette Academy. That belongs to the Society of St. Pius X. And technically in canon law, I'm their canonical pastor, okay? Because they fall within my parish boundaries. Parish boundaries of both St. Mary's, St. Isaac's, goes down to the county line, goes over the Indiana border, then goes up north to Rossville Lane. Then I think it's the county line, I know it's the county line going west to Champaign County. So that's my canonical parish, and I'm their canonical pastor. So something's up with them, that community that you need to be aware of. It goes back to the noble lie. Can we detect that happening? Now, I was born in 1957. Vatican II happened between 62 and 65. So when I grew up, the Mass had already been changed. I had very faint memory of a Latin Mass. So all my teens and 20s, when I entered seminary, I've only known what we call the Novus Ordo, or New Order, the New Mass. In fact, I only knew that there was one Eucharistic prayer number 2. So one archbishop was involved in all those changes. His name is Archbishop Bugnini. During the 50s, he was a priest. In fact, I bought his book just to have all the different assignments he had over the years. So back in the 50s, he was involved in the liturgy, and then coming up to Vatican II, he was a perite, an expert in the liturgy. Then the assignment that he had as a Monsignor, and then after Vatican II, he was made a bishop. The year he was made a bishop, and then he was involved in something called the Concilium It was how the liturgy was all formed in the late 60s. Then when he was made an archbishop, and then his last assignment. I'm going to make you wait on that one. His last assignment. Now, Archbishop Bugnini was involved in all the changes of the new Mass, and he's the one that went to Pope Paul VI and got the signed off on. Okay, so everything that he did was signed off by Pope Paul VI. And one of the things he wanted was more Eucharistic prayers. So he came up with the three other ones, Eucharistic prayer 2, 3, and 4. And so he went to Pope Paul VI and said, since we have these other Eucharistic prayers, we don't need the first Eucharistic prayer called the Roman Canon. Now that's one I never heard of when I was growing up. Just about every priest used which Eucharistic prayer? 2. Why? It was the shortest. In fact, during the convocation, we had a Mass with the Archdiocese of Chicago, and the Cardinal Archbishop was the main celebrant, and he used Eucharistic prayer number 2. I hadn't heard that in years, and I was shocked at how short it was. How short it was. And I recall my memory, I remember that now. I remember that. Now, Archbishop Bugnini went to the Pope and said, we don't need the first Eucharistic prayer. We got these other ones. And Pope Paul VI said, no, I think we should hang on to it. Thank God. Okay? So in any event, Eucharistic prayer number 2, if you don't know, was debated and was going to be turned in a terrible way. So 2 of the theologians who were working on that said, we can't turn this in like it is. It is so bad. We need to do something. So they stayed up all night in an Italian restaurant working on the wording of Eucharistic prayer 2. And then they turned it in the next day. So that's the fruit. That's where that prayer came from. 2 theologians who trying to make the best of all that language at an Italian restaurant. So Archbishop, the other Archbishop, his name is Archbishop Lefebvre. He also participated, but he participated as a main bishop in Vatican II itself. He signed off all the documents of Vatican II, but when he saw the changes that were happening after Vatican II, changes done by Archbishop Bugnini, he said, I think I don't want anything to do with that. I'm just going to say the old Mass. I'm just going to say the old Mass. Just let them be. I'm going to start my own little group, all faithful to the Church, and we're going to call it the Society of St. Pius X. So he was a French bishop and small little group in France. However, it started attracting a lot of attention. More and more people started coming to the Society of St. Pius X, mainly because they saw what was going on with the new Mass and how it was being handled. So the situation went on until Archbishop Lefebvre said, I'm getting older now, and I need bishops for my society who will carry on the mission. So he went to the Pope. It would be 1988. He went to Pope John Paul II. May I consecrate priests to become bishops? And the Pope said no. Archbishop said, well, why? Okay. And so there was dialogue going back and forth with the Vatican, and the main point person on that was Pope John Paul II's right-hand man, Cardinal Ratzinger. And it came down to the final hour, and Archbishop Lefebvre said, I don't trust the Vatican. I'm going to consecrate my 4 bishops. So that's what he did in 1988. But it goes against canon law, and by doing that, he was automatically, and the 4 bishops, automatically excommunicated, which means you're going to hell. You're outside the church. So this is a very serious step they took. So after 1988, the society kept growing. I first encountered them here at Olivet when I came in 2008. They came in 2005. And I had no contact with them anyplace else except here. Like I said, I'm their canonical pastor. And so they're still growing. When I came here, they only had like 80 boys in the school and 6 academies throughout the United States. Now they have 110 or 112 or 120, I forgot, going there now, and they have 12 academies going across the United States. In fact, more Catholics go to a Society of St. Pius X Mass in France than Catholics go to the regular Mass. So they're growing by leaps and bounds because they're being faithful to the Catholic faith. They haven't contraceptive, they haven't sterilized themselves, they're having babies. If you don't have babies, you don't have growth. I mean, this is why we had to close the school here in 2010. This is why the diocese is merging parishes. Demographics is destiny. Demographics is destiny. And so, Society of St. Pius X is saying, our bishops, well, going back now to Cardinal Ratzinger. So after John Paul II passed away, Cardinal Ratzinger became the Pope, Pope Benedict XVI. One of the first things he did, he lifted the excommunication on the 4 bishops. By then, Archbishop Lefebvre had died, and so he lifted the 4 excommunications. And then he told the bishops worldwide, because I was told this in seminary, that we are not allowed to say the Old Mass. So Pope Benedict XVI told all the bishops, that's not true. Never been true. In fact, I'm going to allow any priest to celebrate the Latin Mass. He doesn't need permission. Just part of the ordination that we get when we're ordained. So that was the status under Pope Benedict. Now Pope Francis comes on board, and he says, well, I'm going to change what Pope Benedict did. Every priest who wants to celebrate that Mass has to come to me. So right now I have to go to the Pope if I want to celebrate publicly the Latin Mass. And so some bishops are taking it even further. You might be watching the news, saying, oh, you can't use the altar rail. You can't receive on the tongue. You can't celebrate ad orientem. So some bishops are doing this already to people. Now, everything I'm doing is legitimate, it's kosher, as they say, found in the general instruction of the Roman Missal. But the next priest might be doing things differently. I'm giving you a heads up here. I've told you this before. Think of the analogy of a car dealership. You go to a car dealer, you can get yourself a Volkswagen Bug. Explain that to the young kids, okay? Or you get a Coupe de Ville, okay? Or a van. You can have any color you want, any options you want. Because there are a lot of options in the new way to celebrate Mass. I choose some and I leave others out. But this is coming now here. So we have to realize every priest is going to be different. You're still going to come out with a car, okay? But it's going to be different from every other priest. Is it fair to you? I don't think so. But it's out of my hands. I walked into this situation like that. In fact, when I heard a priest use the first Eucharistic prayer for the first time, I was a seminarian, I went up to after Mass and said, "What was that prayer?" And he kind of roughly said, "It's the Roman canon, kid." I should have known. I didn't know. Nobody ever told me. But that's when I heard about the second Eucharistic prayer being formed at an Italian restaurant, I said, okay, I'm going to only use the first Eucharistic prayer. I know it's long, but it's 1,500 years old, has all those names and saints, and I just decided to make reparation. Now, you're lucky. You're probably, I would say, less than 5% of priests use that prayer. Okay? I would guess that. I would guess that. Not many priests use it. But I don't know what the future holds. Now, Archbishop Lefebvre started the Society of St. Pius X. And the reason why I'm bringing all this up is July 1st, the Society says we're going to consecrate 4 bishops because we need bishops for our society. They need bishops to do confirmations and things like that. And so the Pope said no. Society of St. Pius said, well, why? So they're trying to get a dialogue with the Pope. And the Pope is saying, if you do this, you're going to incur automatic excommunication. But now the rumor is it's not going to be just the priests involved and the ordaining bishop. It's going to be all the priests of the society. There's 700 of them. Maybe even any member of the Society of St. Pius X might be excommunicated. We need to pray for them. This is all going to happen here in less than 2 weeks, July 1st. Now, going back to Archbishop Bugnini, I've told you this once before. Does anybody remember where his last assignment was? Something happened in the late 60s. I have an idea. They brought some material to the Pope, and Archbishop Bugnini was transferred immediately to Tehran, Iran. Do you know how many Catholics are in Tehran, Iran? That's his last assignment. If I was the Society of St. Pius X, and I'm just giving them open advice, I would ask the Holy Father, tell us what was in the briefcase that got him transferred. I want to know. I don't want to have a noble lie told to me. That's too bad. We're not going to tell you for fear of scandal. I think we have a right to know. That's just my opinion. I'm not the Pope. I'm not the bishop. I'm just a canonical pastor here in this area. But I'm telling you all of this so you're going to hear the news here a couple days coming out. You might be saying, well, what is this all about? Well, I'm going to put this talk up online. You can re-listen to my homily. Say, oh, okay, now I understand. Now, everything I've told you is public knowledge. So before the internet, it was one priest telling another priest, did you hear this? Did you understand it this way? Well, now with the internet, you can look it up. You can ask an AI app, tell me about Archbishop Bugnini. It'll spill out all out. But in any event, we need to pray. We need to pray for the Pope, pray for the Society of St. Pius X, pray for our bishop, and pray for me. Amen.